denominational prayer service at the Nakuru Athletic Club in Nakuru City. You can follow the story inside the Daily Nation this morning. Let's see what the teaser has on top here. IMF reforms will hurt the economy. House budget teams warns president about plans. This is on the back page of the Daily Nation. She speaks fluent Chinese, right? She speaks fluent Mandarin. They always tell us there's nothing like Chinese, isn't it? Richard Nyong. Mandarin is the language. Now show us how you've spent 800 billion shillings taxes, Raila tells Ruto. That is a story that you want to follow on page 5 of the Daily Nation this morning. The Star is up next. Ruto's MP's numbers threat to Uhuru Raila. Supermajority could give president free hand to engineer key constitutional changes. This story is on page 4 and 5 of the Star today. Kenya Kwanza just needs 15 MPs to get the magical 2/3 majority. And this is how it went yesterday. On one side, we can see Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru, President William Ruto, and DP Rigathi Gachagua at the interdenominational church service at Nakuru Athletics Club. Also, on the other side, we can see this is Roots Party leader George Wajakoya, Budalangi MP Raphael Wanjala, Azimio leader Raila Odinga, and Matayos MP Geoffrey Odanga at Mundika Catholic Church in Busia Town yesterday. Also, police arrest 4 university students over robbery claims in Nairobi Estate. And big guns continue to snub Azimio la Umoja People's Baraza regional meetings. Kenya Kwanza's budget options are, as experts warns, against expenditure cuts. That is the story that you want to follow inside the Star this morning. Also on top here, Gisheru's widow wants court to release 4 million shillings from his 132 million shillings estate. This story is on page 2 of the Star this morning. Paper Daily. Congestion hits JSS classrooms. There are teething problems here. Failure to approve some public schools to offer grade 7 high cost of private education cause headache. You have this story on page 2 and 3 of the People Daily. And the numbers are broken down here for you. 1.2 million. That is the number of grade 6 learners who sat the Kenya primary school education assessment last year. 100%. Government wants all learners who sat grade 6 exams to join junior secondary school, but not all schools were approved for JSS. We have 15,000. That is the amount government has allocated for every JSS learner. However, the money was yet to reach school bank accounts by last Friday. We have 15 to 45, the ideal number of learners in a classroom. Many junior secondary classrooms, however, have more than 75 students. 150, that is the number of grade 7 learners in some congested classrooms, according to Head Teachers Association boss. And 300, number of JSS learners admitted to Kongowea Primary School in Mombasa. The school has 5 JSS teachers. Raise tax spending budget team says. Raise tax spending budget team says. Cutting funding for development during recession bad for economy. Parliament wants national treasury. That is a story that follows. You can follow it on page 5 of the People Daily. And Ruto hits out at Raila on talks with MPs. You can see them in a pious mood yesterday there. I can work with any elected leader, President tells Azimio boss after spat over visit by ODM legislator or legislators to State House. That is the People Daily. We have Taifa Leo, Washikana Mashati. That is a splash. Washikana Mashati, Ruto na Raila wakabana koo kuhusu matukio ya wabunge wa Azimio kuanza kuegemea upande wa serikali. You know the story by now. You can read all about it also inside the Taifa Leo. Liverpool katika ratili. Man United now wakipaa. The Reds walialika Everton, while Everton Red Devils ikizaba Leeds. You can follow the story inside Taifa Leo this morning. And Business Daily. Ruto ejects over 120 Uhuru allies and parastatal changes. At least 119 board chairs and directors had in 58 states firms. Next phase will seek to replace chief executives. That story was well fleshed out for you on page 2 of the Business Daily this morning. President William Ruto's administration has made bold changes in at least 58 parastatus, replacing more than 100 appointees tapped by his predecessor, Uhuru Kenyatta, as he seeks to assert his influence over state-backed firms and agencies. Talk of really draining the swamp, Richard Onyonka.
Yes.
This is what the president is doing. He wants a complete face of his inside, of course, every facet of government.
Yeah, the truth is, if you look at what has been going on, President Ruto is actually rewarding his friends. Mm-hmm. He's rewarding those individuals who were with him immediately after he disagreed with Uhuru, and those ones that he picked along the way as he was moving on towards the end of the elections last year. Mm-hmm. And to a large extent, he has been systematically and very carefully make sure he fits in the gaps, those areas where all these people were or are, so that then he doesn't get blamed for not rewarding his friends. Mm-hmm. In some areas there have been complaints, like in Kisii there has been questions raised before about why is it that, for example, when he appointed the permanent secretaries, he only picked, I think, one, also out of 40 or 50.
Yes.
But I think we shouldn't really look at the question from that perspective. My argument is it is not only Kisiis who have been raising these issues. I think any president who comes in should deliberately make sure that he has teams of individuals from all corners of Kenya who can then be adopted into his government, or who can be hired by his government, just to make sure that the smooth running of government takes place. But at the same time, it should be a government that shows inclusivity. It should be a government that shows regional balancing. It should be a government that shows gender parity. So all these things, I think, is what he's trying to balance to make sure that he achieves the target of making sure his government works. Yeah.
Right, but there seems also things coming up process for the Kisii region.
Yes.
We have right now the former member of parliament for Kitutu Masaba.
Yes.
Right, who is slated or tapped to be the next Solicitor General. So this is awaiting also the resumption of parliament tomorrow for the approval.
Yes. So I think Dibal, where we are now is, for me, the best thing is to wait and see at the end of the selection period and the nomination period, because several individuals are being picked. Some have got executive officers, some are just being picked directly by the president, some just need gazettement. I think the balancing that President Ruto has to come in with is because he has given Kenyans the impression that he's an inclusive president. So he must look at coast, and then when you go to coast, you have to look at the smaller regions and all the communities in coast. You come to western, you have to look at the areas in western in terms of the clan arrangements and the clan matrices, and that's what happens. I mean, even in Kisii, Honorable Mose is going to be the Solicitor General from Kitutu Masaba. At least what many Kenyans may not know is that Kitutu Masaba is in Nyamira. So Mose is considered as one of the beneficiaries of the UDA government giving a job to somebody from Nyamira. You get what I'm saying. Why? Because in Kisii, the selection of CS Machogu, he comes from Kisii County. So in a way, I see what the president is doing is kind of balancing between the two counties. And it's not just Kisii. I think he's going to do that in all the counties, because I see some appointments are coming from Homa Bay. He has appointed some people from from Migori County. So I see him slowly sort of kind of balancing to make sure that there is this general feeling that will come up that the selections have been inclusive, they've been balanced, and they've been fair to all Kenyans. Yes.
Right. And that's what you can read it all about as well. Ruto rejects over 120 Uhuru allies and parastatal changes. At least he says here, 119 board chairs and directors had in 58 state firms. Next phase will seek to replace chief executives. And also, why President picks former PS as CBK deputy governor. Remember also the requirement of the constitution is that the CBK governor should be deputized by at least 2 deputies. And we had this particular office that will be, of course, filled in by Susan Kowech, which was vacant for the last 7 years. You can read all about it on page 5 of the Business Daily this morning. And judiciary finance bows fire due to tribe tax evasion leak back. You can follow that story inside the Business Daily. Judiciary finance bows fire due to tribe tax evasion leak back. And Airtel set to launch 5G service in select high-end estates. You can read all about it on page 7 of the Business Daily this morning. We cross over now to Uganda. Daily Monitor inside the fights at Ugandan embassies. Inside the fights at Ugandan embassies is what is a splash here. Reports indicate that fight over control of finance and supremacy at 17 Ugandan embassies abroad are fracturing work relations and lowering morale among staffs. You can read all about this on page 4 and 5 of the Daily Monitor. Gay talk dominates North Karamoja Bishop enthronement. Remember, we had the clergy from Uganda associating themselves with the Anglican Church from the UK on the stand on gayism. But you can read all about this also on page 10 of the Daily Monitor inside, or page 10 of the Daily Monitor today. The life and stellar career of NUP lawyer Yeboah Wameli. Read all about it on the obituary there segment, where they paid tribute to this lawyer. You can follow the story inside the Daily Monitor. In Tanzania, farmers' incomes set for record numbers. Farmers' incomes have increased by 13% in the last 2022-2023 season as attempts to improve data collection offset a drop in output from some imported products, with projections indicating an even higher revenue tally. That story is on page 2 of the Citizen in Tanzania. We cross over now to Rwanda, where majority of Momo borrowers are youth. Momo is a Rwandese lexicon there. They are intimately familiar with it. Majority of Momo borrowers are youth. This is according to Credit Bureau. There are at least 1.5 million credit active individuals and companies in Rwanda. Momo could be their Fuliza there. And this is ministers discuss regulations of special economic zones. That is the African Continental Free Trade Area. And we can see Minister for Trade and Industry. This is Jean Christenstom Ngabitsinize at the 11th African Continental Free Trade Area. That is Council of Ministers meeting, which started on Friday the 11th and ended on Sunday in Botswana. This is happening in Rwanda. The East African. We have the Airbus, Boeing vying for Uganda orders. The European and US firms executives have been camping in Kampala to pitch sales of their narrow body planes as Carrier prepares to service international routes like London and Dubai. That story continues on page 10 of the East African. And Congo, Uhuru's balancing act. Some says he's on M23's side. Others say he's in Tshisekedi's pocket. Ruto allies want him recalled. Will he deliver? That is a story that is on page 4. Remember, we had the president of Congo saying that Kenya has taken sides as far as their boots on the ground is concerned in that country.
Also, 36th AU Summit, another round of broken promises. That is a probing question. African leaders converge on Addis to talk about peace, security again. Newsweek is up next. Why you can't behave yourself? Why you can't behave yourself? Science has uncovered fresh ideas about breaking bad habits. Read all about it on the latest copy of the Newsweek. And we have The Economist finally. Google, chatbots and the battle for search is what is on the front page of The Economist. The parable of Adani, earthquake horror, China's rapid recovery, academic thought police. All those are just highlights of what is inside The Economist, the latest copy as well. Editorial cartoon that we have this weekend, The Standard. This is what is in The Standard this morning. And this is where I want to rope in Danson Mungatana, also Hilary Segei, and Richard Onyonka. We're still eagerly waiting for Faramalim to join us as well. But let me just cross over to Danson Mungatana to welcome him back. He's been out of the country, on duty as well as the part of, you're the chair actually of the parliamentary
Pan-African Parliament.
Tell me more about the Pan-African. You had a meeting?
No, but what took me out was COMESA Competition Commission duties.
Oh yeah.
Which I've been doing even before.
And you chair as a
strategy commission. It's a strategy committee. So we had some meetings. But the main thing is, in that body, we make adjudication on issues to do with trade. So when there are problems that the state parties to this trade agreement, when there are issues, the commissioners converge and they make decisions on what is right and what is wrong. So we sort of give impact to we give the force to the trade treaty between COMESA countries. So that's what was taking our time. But then I went back to the county. The county, Tana River, is fine.
Yes.
But we have serious problems of hunger still. The rains haven't come, and there are serious issues as far as farm production is concerned, and also animal well-being is concerned. My biggest disappointment is that our country is still talking about politics, talking about lost elections, I don't know what, and yet the big issue is that we are having droughts. You know, I wish if I was in the opposition, and I wish the people who are in opposition would read the mood of the country. We need to push the government towards irrigation schemes, towards digging more boreholes, towards adapting to climate change so that food production can become a guarantee for the people. Don't stand out there and tell us, I lost my election, it was stolen. Who cares? We are hungry. Many people are hungry in the counties, even here in Nairobi. When food is expensive, life becomes unbearable. And those are the things that should be taking our time as leaders. But when you come back and all we are talking about is politics, it's really disappointing. And I pray that maybe someday people will find it in themselves. The reason for us to be there, it is to lead our people towards prosperity, not to lead our people towards politics. Because politics doesn't put food on the table. Politics does not take our children to school. I wish, politics doesn't heal sicknesses, but our country is so engrossed with that. When we were sitting in Mauritius for this COMESA, the headlines there, people are talking about prices of goods, There are discussions with extending the country's extension of their engagement in AGOA. This is sending their cotton to America. What is the Prime Minister doing about it? Opposition really engaging on, new construction of roads, prices of goods, those are the things. And then we cross over and we're being told, we need our elections. I don't know. It is a bit disappointing. And I pray that our country will find a correct footing. Let us talk about real issues. Why is Kenyatta National Hospital not performing? How many kilometers of tarmac have we put since the elections up to now? I saw a headline that there are doctors who are unemployed in Kenya. Why are we not putting those doctors in work? And yet we have counties that don't have doctors in various hospitals, like my county. You see, we don't have sufficient manpower. And those are the people that, we should be engaging. The country should be talking about real issues. We should be asking ourselves, have we adapted to the CBC? What are the hiccups? What if I was in the opposition? These are the questions that are going to determine the next general elections. This is not whether I won or lost my last election. It is what is happening with the people right now.
All right.
And that is the prayer that I hope this country's direction.
Well, if you say that, people don't really care, I think they do care from the end of Azbil. That's why they're really agitating, and they're asking, even imploring IBC that they should at least audit the server to get to see who actually won that general election. But let me just say from Hilary Segei, good to see you. Good morning.
Good morning, Dubai.
Yes.
And I'm happy to be back today.
Yeah, you were at the prayers yesterday in Nakuru?
Oh, definitely. I could not have missed it. And let me just pick the cue from where the Honorable Senator Munkatana has said, and on the basis of your response. I do also have a feeling that it's high time. You've just said that it is not our brothers from the other side failing to comment or failing to be concerned, but the way they are contextualizing their opposition and their conversation about the issues is too politicized to be an objective conversation about what an opposition team ought to be doing in order to keep the government of the day in toes, and also to guide the conversation on what are the issues other than the politics. Because remember, Debal, we can't be preoccupied with IEBC for a whole 1 year after election. And we've talked about this over and over again. In fact, the president yesterday said that what our brothers and sisters from Azimio are doing is what they ought to have done immediately after the elections in August. It is not, it can't qualify to be a deferred event, their protest or their rallies. It is time for us to roll our sleeves and work for the people of Kenya, both in the opposition and in the government. And that is why when we say we are resuming on Tuesday, which is tomorrow, we are not resuming as opposition and government. We are resuming as parliament, because the projects in terms of order paper, in terms of the issues that we have to deal with, will be dealt with by the parliament, that is the National Assembly and the Senate. So the conversation which we are talking about is, I wish we could get to that level where when I prepare to get to the house tomorrow, I'm not thinking of what exactly is the Honorable Senator Onyonka will be bringing on board, not as a leader, but as a member of the other side or the other formation, and Mungatana from this other formation. That is where we are saying we wish we could get to that level where we are talking as Kenyans, as leaders on issues very, very relevant to all Kenyans, no matter the formation, no matter the position that they took in the election. But then again, you've asked me whether I attended the mega rally yesterday. I did. And it was a sea of humanity that attended that mega rally in Nakuru. And I picked two things out of there. One is Kenyans have moved on, and they really, really want to concentrate on issues that affect their life on a daily basis. Each speaker that spoke yesterday rallied Kenyans behind the need to be united, the need to be focused, the need to now get down to work and forget about politics, because remember, Nakuru is I would call a centerpiece of unity in Kenya. In fact, every speaker, from the clergy all through to the common mwananchi, was saying that that prayer rally ought to have happened 10 years ago, because we went to Nakuru in 2013, in 2012, for a prayer rally that brought the unity of Kenya to place. And it was a return to go and say thank you. That return ought to have happened in the previous government. It didn't happen. So we went down there, it was a Thanksgiving, and among the things that everyone spoke about is the rain. We needed to pray for rain. We need to have Kenyans work, and we need to encourage the government of the day that, notwithstanding the drought that is cutting across, what are the things that we need to do to support our brothers and sisters in Laikipia, in Samburu, in Northeastern, in other areas where there is drought and people are expecting to plant. It's getting to planting season. Remember, we are launching, or rather we have actually launched the subsidized fertilizer to the farmers. And another thing that people spoke about is the unity of parliament, unity of the leadership that we expect in the country. And I'm seeing the headline that now Ruto on path to absolute power. Whether absolute power is gained by having absolute majority, or I wouldn't say killing the opposition. Yes, having absolute majority. And that is also what was the conversation about. We had coming on board yesterday the entire team of Jubilee, from the party chairman, who was present actually in the rally, and the rest of the team from the National Assembly. That's basically the leadership saying it is time to sit down and work with the government of the day for the people of Kenya, notwithstanding the formation that one had. Okay. And looking at it, Dibal, then it's closing on the numbers, because at the end of the day in Parliament, we're talking about a team that can work to push the agenda of the government and to pass legislation that is brought before the House. Okay. And we're looking at a number of almost 200 plus. So if that is what we are calling absolute power, I would call it super majority, for purposes of transacting the business of the House.
Super majority.
Super majority.
But this super majority, this super majority is not a super majority that has been gained through the ballot. It is now the luring of other legislators that now is making the super majority, as we can see it, and other legislators are decrying that he is biting at the cookie and the pie of the Azimio leaders. We've seen some of the leaders are also being deregistered from ODM.
Quite interesting, Dibal.
But you hold on to that. I want just Richard Onyoka to speak to that as well. Because even as we have the resumption of Parliament tomorrow, as I mentioned earlier during the opening of the program, one of the key elements of discussion, though it's not really a bill, but will be, I think, point of order that will be slated in by the Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, is a memorandum that the President forwarded to the Speaker in December, isn't it? And this, he seeks to actually have an official opposition. That will be a subject that will be broached. But the question we're asking today is, the President seems to be particularly intent on forming an official opposition, but on the other side as well, he's weakening the opposition itself, that he wants it to be very robust in the House for checks and balances purposes. So this really belies that particular effort. This belies that particular memorandum. What do you have to say?
I will answer, and I will tell you this, Dipal. Any leader, you can take what you have on the table in terms of what does a leader want once he takes power. It's for him to have a capacity and an easy way on how that leader can be able to handle their agenda. Are you with me? Mm-hmm. In other words, any politician, and this is the observation of what, and I've been very carefully observing, for example, what the governors are doing. My brother Mungatana, I don't know what is happening in Tana River, but I can tell you that in Kisii, what is happening basically is that you find that the governor has made sure that the people who are appointed to cabinet positions, the people who are coming in as CEOs, are being given those positions with the tacit feeling from the governor's team that he needs people whom he can work with. that includes, contrary to what most Kenyans think, we are supposed to be actually having county assemblies which are supposed to be oversighting the governors. But if you look at the way, even how our members of the county assembly behave, you'll think they are part and parcel of